Life isn't serious. The truth Alan Watts wanted you to know. What if I told you that everything you're stressed about right now, your job, your goals, your identity, your future, none of it is as serious as you think? That the universe isn't judging you, that there's no scoreboard in the sky, and that the desperate seriousness with which we approach life might actually be the very thing preventing us from living it. That's the truth Alan Watts wanted you to know. Not to make you careless, but to set you free. Because the moment you stop taking life so seriously, you begin to see it for what it really is: not a problem to be solved, but a dance to be danced, a game to be played, a song to be sung. But we don't live like that, do we? We live like we're on trial. Like every decision is a verdict. Like every mistake is a permanent mark on some cosmic resume. We live with tension in our bodies, anxiety in our minds, and pressure behind every smile. Why? Because we were taught to. From the moment we could walk, we were trained to be serious, to be responsible, to achieve, to succeed, and most of all, to fear failure. We were told that life is a ladder, and if you don't climb it fast enough, someone else will step on your fingers. But that you have to make something of yourself, as if you were born empty, as if you were not already something miraculous just by existing.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Alan Watts flipped that idea upside down. For him, life wasn't a ladder. It was a symphony. And the purpose of a symphony isn't to get to the end. Can you imagine going to a concert where the goal was to play the final note as quickly as possible? No, the beauty of music is in the unfolding. The rise and fall, the tension and release, the play between silence and sound. Life, Watts said, is exactly the same. We're not here to arrive, we're here to play. And yet we don't play. We perform. We grind. We chase. We live like we're in a race we didn't sign up for. And worst of all, we forget that all of this, every tree, every breeze, every laugh, every tear, it's all happening in a universe that doesn't take itself seriously at all. The stars aren't working. The oceans aren't hustling. The birds aren't stressed about their 5-year plan. They just are. And they are glorious. So why aren't we? Because we've mistaken seriousness for significance. We think that if we're serious, we're important. If we're stressed, we must be doing something that matters. But Watts saw through that illusion. He knew that seriousness is often just fear in disguise. Fear of being judged. Fear of being left behind. And fear of being meaningless. But what if meaning isn't something you earn? What if it's something you embody the moment you stop trying to prove yourself? Let me ask you something. When was the last time you laughed, really laughed at the absurdity of life? At how strange it is that we're spinning on a rock in space, worrying about emails and deadlines and likes on a screen. When was the last time you danced for no reason? Or sat with a friend in silence, not trying to be wise or impressive, just being? When was the last time you looked at a cloud and thought, that's enough for today? Alan Watts didn't want us to become careless or lazy. He wanted us to become awake, to realize that seriousness is a trap. That we spend so much of our lives preparing to live, we forget to actually do it. We plan, we schedule, we sacrifice the present for a future that never really arrives. Because when it does, guess what? We're already planning the next thing. And that's the cruel trick of seriousness. It keeps you running toward a finish line that keeps moving. But if life isn't serious, then what is it? It's a playground, an experiment, a cosmic joke, and you're in on it. The universe isn't asking you to be perfect. It's asking you to participate, to show up with curiosity, to make mistakes, to fall in love, to get your heart broken, to lose yourself in laughter, and to wake up again and again to the miracle of existing. Life isn't about reaching some final state of success. It's about realizing that you were never separate from the dance in the first place. And what happens when you stop taking life so seriously? You become light. Not shallow, but light. You stop dragging the weight of expectations. You stop performing for an invisible judge. You start living from the inside out. You start noticing things the way sunlight hits a leaf, the way someone's eyes light up when they talk about their passion, the way your own breath feels when you become still. You become present. So here's a question that could change your entire life. What would you do differently if you knew it was all a game? Not a game with winners and losers, but a game meant to be played for the joy of it. Would you still stress over being right all the time? Would you still hold grudges? Would you still chase things just because someone told you they mattered? Or would you laugh more? Love more? Try something ridiculous just because it made your heart beat faster. You don't have to pretend that life doesn't hurt, and of course it does. But even pain is part of the dance. Even sorrow has its rhythm. And when you stop resisting, when you stop clenching your fists and trying to control it all, you start to feel the music underneath everything. That's what Watts saw. That's what he tried to teach us, not with rules, but with laughter. Not with sermons, but with stories. He reminded us of something we already knew as children, but forgot as adults. Life is not a task. It's a toy. Why you've been playing the wrong game all along. We live like life is a competition. There's a scoreboard in our heads tallied with money, status, followers, achievements, and the never-ending need to be better than someone else. We don't question the game, we just play harder. We hustle, we grind, we sacrifice sleep, time, joy because we think that's what winning looks like. But have you ever stopped to wonder who made these rules? Who said this is the game we're supposed to play? And more importantly, what if they were wrong? Alan Watts would argue that most of us are caught in a game. We didn't choose a game based on scarcity, fear, and the illusion that our worth comes from what we produce. That the more serious we are, the more we're respected. That the more we suffer, the more we're valued. But Watts saw through the absurdity of all this. He asked us to consider that the game of life is not about winning. It's about waking up to the fact that the game itself is optional, that we can choose to step out of it. Think about it. You're born into a world where everything is already labeled. Good and bad. Success and failure. Smart and stupid. You're told what to value, what to fear, what to chase. You're given a name, a nationality, a religion, a GPA, a job title. And slowly, without realizing it, you become a character in someone else's story. You forget that behind all those labels is something raw and real you. Not the version of you that posts perfectly edited highlights. Not the version that's terrified of being not enough. But the version that existed before anyone told you who you were supposed to be. Watts asked, what if life is more like a play than a war? What if it's not about being the best actor, but about enjoying the role you're in, knowing the curtain will fall, and that's okay? What if the point isn't to conquer the stage, but to dance on it? Most of us treat life like a test. We think there's a right answer to everything, that if we can just choose correctly career, partner, lifestyle, we'll finally feel at peace. But real peace doesn't come from choosing the right things. It comes from realizing that there is no final answer. That life isn't a multiple choice exam, it's jazz. It's improvisation. And the more you try to control the music, the more you miss the rhythm. Watts believed that the universe is playing a game of hide and seek with itself. You are it, pretending you're not. You are the cosmos, in disguise, acting out this beautiful, terrifying, hilarious drama called being human. And the moment you remember that, the anxiety softens. The fear fades a little. You start to laugh at the absurdity of it all. Because you realize that the game was never about getting somewhere. It was about realizing you were already there. Let me ask you this. If you suddenly woke up and realized you were playing the wrong game, what would you stop doing immediately? What would you finally give yourself permission to try? Who would you forgive? Who would you become? The problem isn't that life is hard. It's that we've made it harder by playing it like a battle to be won. But what if it's not a battle? What if it's a playground? A stage? A garden? What if the rules you've been following were never yours to begin with? Watts didn't want us to reject effort. He wanted us to reject attachment. But he didn't say don't work, he said don't worship work. He didn't say don't care, he said don't confuse caring with clinging. He wanted us to play the game of life the way children play, completely absorbed, completely joyful, and completely unattached to the outcome. Because children don't play to win, they play to play. So here's your challenge. Stop chasing the scoreboard. Start chasing the feeling, the joy, the flow, the presence. You don't need to earn your place in the universe. You're already here. The game you've been playing, the one built on fear, scarcity, and performance, isn't the only one. There's another game, one where the goal isn't to win, but to wake up. The illusion of the self, and why letting go sets you free. Every day we wake up and return to the same story. This is me. This is who I am. We say it with such certainty: our name, our job, our past, our preferences, our fears. But we wrap ourselves in this mental construct called the self, and we defend it like a fortress. But what if the self you believe in so deeply isn't real? What if it's a constantly shifting illusion, a mask worn by consciousness, and the moment you stop gripping it so tightly, you're free? Alan Watts didn't say the self doesn't exist. He said that the way we think the self exists is profoundly mistaken. We believe we are isolated egos, cut off from the rest of the universe, like skaters on a frozen pond. But what if the pond and the skater are one? What if you're not a separate entity moving through the world, but an expression of the world itself, like a wave on the ocean, inseparable from the water beneath it? We say I think, I feel, I want, as if there's a little person inside our heads pulling levers. But when you look for that I, can you find it? Who is the thinker behind the thoughts? Who is the watcher behind the eyes? The more you look, the more it slips away. And that's not a problem. That's the point. The self is not a thing, it's a process, a verb, not a noun. but we try to freeze it, define it, protect it. And that's where our suffering begins. Because when you believe the self is fixed, when you take it seriously, cling to it, try to defend its image, you become afraid. You're afraid of failure because it threatens your identity. You're afraid of change because it dissolves what you thought you were. You're afraid of uncertainty because it exposes the truth that you are not a solid object, but a flowing river of experience. Watts taught that letting go of the self isn't about disappearing, it's about reappearing as something vast and interconnected. When you stop seeing yourself as a separate ego, you begin to feel the truth that you are life. Not a life, but life itself. The same force that grows trees and spins galaxies is pulsing through your breath right now. You are not in the universe. You are the universe looking at itself through a particular lens, just for a while. But we don't live like that. We live like we're fragments. As if we're on the outside, trying to force our way into some grand narrative. That's why we're insecure. That's why we're constantly comparing ourselves. Because we think we're separate. We think we're alone. But how could you be alone in a universe where everything is made of the same stuff? Every thought, every breath, every sensation, none of it is yours. It's all borrowed, all passing, all shared. Let me ask you something radical. What would happen if you stopped trying to be somebody? If you stopped trying to prove your value, to maintain your image, to curate the perfect identity? What would remain? Would you vanish, or would you begin to truly exist for the first time? When you stop trying to be a fixed self, you become something far more powerful, presence. You become the awareness behind the thoughts, the silence beneath the noise. You become the sky, not the clouds. And that's freedom. Not the freedom to do whatever you want, but the freedom to stop pretending, and to stop performing, to stop fighting reality. But what's new that the ego isn't evil, it's just confused. It's a useful tool, like a role in a play. But the problem starts when you forget you're playing. When the mask sticks to your skin and you mistake it for your face. That's when anxiety sets in. That's when fear rules your decisions. Because you're no longer flowing with life, you're clinging to an idea of you that was never stable to begin with. And once you see that, everything shifts. You stop needing to be right all the time. You stop obsessing over your image. You stop needing to control how others see you. Because you realize there is no fixed self to defend. There's only this moment, this breath, this awareness. And it's enough. So here's the invitation Alan Watts left us. Let go. Not as a rejection, but as a return. Let go of the self, not to lose yourself, but to find something deeper. Something not made of thoughts or labels or roles, but made of life itself. You don't need to be someone. You already are everything. You'll never be in control. And that's the most liberating truth of all. There's a deep anxiety that hums beneath modern life. Like a low-frequency noise we've all learned to ignore, but can't escape. It's the need to be in control of our time, our future, our emotions, our relationships. We plan relentlessly, we strategize, we micromanage. We think if we can just get everything right, if we can tighten every screw and close every loose end, then we'll finally feel safe. But we don't, because the truth is, we never were in control, and we never will be. Alan Watts didn't see this as a problem. He saw it as liberation, because the need to control is the root of our suffering. It's the tension in our shoulders, the worry in our minds, the fear in our hearts. We're constantly resisting the flow of life, trying to push it into our narrow expectations. But life doesn't obey. It doesn't care about your calendar. It doesn't follow your perfect 5-year plan. Life is wild. Life is unpredictable. Life is alive. And yet, we keep fighting it. We treat the unknown like an enemy. We try to dominate the future like it's a territory to be conquered. But in that struggle, we lose the very thing we're searching for: peace. Control is a myth we keep chasing, and the more we chase it, the more distant it becomes. Watts invites us to imagine the ocean. You don't control the waves. You don't command the tides. You surf them. You move with them. You learn to fall, to get back up, to ride. That's life. You're not supposed to control the ocean, you're supposed to dance with it. But we're afraid to let go. We think surrender is weakness. We think letting go means giving up. But it doesn't. Letting go means trusting that the same intelligence that grows trees and spins stars also beats your heart. It means remembering that life has been happening without your permission all along, and that's okay. Think about the moments in your life when you felt most alive. Really think. Were you in control? Or were you present? Were you calculating every move, or were you lost in the moment, flowing, laughing, crying, dancing, loving? Control doesn't create those moments. Surrender does. Presence does. We've built a culture that worships control. We idolize people who appear to have everything together. But scratch beneath the surface, and you'll find that even the most successful people are plagued with fear because they're clinging to a fragile illusion. The truth is, no one has it figured out. Everyone's improvising. Everyone's riding the same chaotic wave. The difference is, some are resisting it and others are riding it. So here's the paradox. The more you try to control life, the more out of control you feel. But the moment you stop gripping so tightly, the moment you loosen your expectations and open your hands, something incredible happens. You begin to trust. You begin to breathe. You begin to live. Watts said, "The more a thing tends to be permanent, the more it tends to be lifeless." Control is our attempt to make life permanent. But life isn't permanent. It's fluid. It's uncertain. And that's what makes it beautiful. When you stop needing to control the outcome, you start to enjoy the process. You become curious instead of fearful. You explore instead of defend. You love without conditions. You create without pressure. Let me ask you something. What part of your life are you still trying to control? Is it your identity? Your relationship? Your path? What are you afraid might happen if you loosened your grip? And what might you discover if you did? The greatest freedom isn't having everything under control. It's realizing you never had to control anything to begin with. You are not a manager of life, you are a participant in its unfolding. You are a thread in the tapestry, a note in the song, a ripple in the stream. And that's enough. Watts didn't offer escape. He offered return. Return to the moment, to the breath, to the great unfolding mystery of existence. You'll never have all the answers. You'll never predict every twist. But you don't need to, because the game was never about control. It was always about being here, fully, now. So stop trying to grip the river. Let it carry you. Laugh, cry, breathe, dance. Life isn't serious. It's sacred, and the moment you stop trying to master it is the moment you finally become free.